Did you know that just like in nature, your business has seasons? If you're interested in learning more about this, then stay tuned. I'm going to be talking all about how our business has its own seasons, just like nature outside, and also how when you live more seasonally, that can really positively impact your business results. Let's dive in. Hi there, welcome to the Wholehearted Business Show. I'm Laura. I help health, life and spiritual coaches get more clients so they can generate more income and live their most aligned life. And today on the show, I'm talking all about the seasons. And actually, I'm going to share quite a few different angles around how the seasons and seasonal energy can intersect and come into play when it comes to our businesses and also in our lives as well. So if you're interested in any of this, basically if you want to learn more about what season your business might be in now, if you want to divest from the entrepreneurial hustle culture, then definitely stay tuned because I'm going to be sharing some things you can consider around that. And if you're just interested in how living more in line with the seasons and these natural cycles can really benefit your business in terms of increased productivity, more rest, more ease, more flow, then stay tuned because I'm going to be covering all of that as well. And then towards the end of the show, I'm going to be sharing just a bit of a personal update. I did a big batch of recordings of the show like back at the start of the summer holiday, so back in July. So this is the first time I've actually been more here, if that makes sense. And I wanted to just share a bit of an update because it's the end of the summer. We're coming into September, which is, the autumn is just my absolute favourite time of year. I get really excited. I just love the whole fresh start energy that we get at this time of year. So I want to be talking a little bit about that and just some personal stuff as well. If you are interested, you don't have to wait for that bit at the end. You can just stop. That's totally fine. It's up to you. So before we kind of dive into more specifics around business, I wanted to talk a little bit about what seasonal living is in general, because for me, this has been something quite profound in my own life that has really developed over the past few years and really brings me a lot of joy and connection and just has a really positive impact on my life and by extension my business. And seasonal living is really just living more in alignment with the seasons as they are experienced outside, the physical seasons that we're in. Obviously, there's going to be a difference if you're in the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere, but each season has its own unique energy. And a big invitation, I think, for you is just to feel into what the seasons mean for you. Like, what do you feel about each season? Because I think although there's like some commonly accepted energies of each season, sometimes people's individual interpretation of those energies are different. So I would always invite you to reflect on what each season means to you and take it from there. But just to talk about some of the generally accepted kind of shifts in energy. So if you think about spring, we think about fertility, we think about growth, we think about emergence. If you just think about what happens to plants and trees and things in nature, that it's going to kind of give you a bit of an indication about what the energy is basically. But spring's all about that kind of vibe, that growth, that fertility, that, that blossoming. It's all about that. And then summer is all about that being in full bloom. So it's very much an outward visible kind of energy. It's, again, if you think about plants and animals in nature, it's like everything's busy, everything's in full bloom, everything's doing its thing. It's all out there. It's a very outward energy. And then if you think about autumn, the kind of energy of autumn is about, I think there's an energy of harvest and kind of harvesting the seeds that you might have planted. Again, I think kind of going back to spring, actually, I think there is that thing about planting of seeds and that kind of energy as well. But in autumn, it's the harvest, it's the culmination, it's the letting go. It's the letting go of what you don't want to carry forward into the next cycle with you. It's all of that kind of energy comes in. And I think for me, it is that kind of starting to gently turn inward. And then winter is all about rest, the fertile void, and it's just this time of real introspection, turning inward and just resting and actually not doing anything. Like if you look outside, everything's dormant, nothing's growing really, things are dormant, things are turning inwards, ready for that fresh energy in spring. So those are the very commonly accepted energies of the season. But like I say, I think it's really interesting to look at like what your own personal feelings are, like what you intuitively feel about each season as well. So for me personally, like I was saying, I've really started to live a bit more in alignment with the seasons. And for me, that really looks like using what I've been calling, I've talked about this on the show before recently, these mini seasons to plan. They're very loosely tied into the Celtic or pagan wheel of the year, which has kind of 8 markers on that. You've got the summer solstice, the winter solstice, the spring and autumn equinoxes, and then you've got these Celtic fire festivals kind of between them. And I like to use that as a very rough way to plan. And I find that each of those chunks of time has its own kind of individual energy that I try and lean into in terms of the things that I might do around the house or the things that I might focus on in the business. And I am planning at some point on doing a little mini training around that, because that's one way that I really feel like I root into the seasons a little bit more, is through that. So that's worked out really well. I mean, in all honesty, they're kind of more aligned to the school terms. I'm a mum, I've got 2 children. That has a big impact on me when school is in term or when they're off on holiday. But in my mind, when I align it a little bit to the seasons, it just makes me feel much more rooted and brings me a lot of joy knowing that I'm doing that as well. So what business lessons can we learn from the seasons, and how can we apply some of this to our business? I very much drew on the work of Kate Northrup around this. If you want to delve into this anymore, please do go and check her out. Her book, Do Less, is really great. I'm sure she talks about this in that book, but she kind of extended this into the business space. And I think it's a really fascinating way to look at it. When you can start to identify where your business might be at in terms of these seasonal energies, that can be a really powerful tool that you can use. And also it just simply reminds us, if you think about the seasons outside, it's simply a repeating cycle of different energy. That's what the seasons are in a lot of ways. Just this repeating cycle that comes, one after the other. And I think what it teaches us is that we need that winter. We actually kind of need some kind of period of deep rest, of deep introspection, to allow us to kind of have the resources to be able to bloom again in spring and to be visible in summer. So I think it teaches us a lot about sustainability and being sustainable with our energy. So if we apply some of those seasonal energies to our business, that might look like, for example, in spring, that might be around starting to come up with ideas for a new offer. It might be starting to think about your marketing and starting to think about getting yourself more out there. I think spring is very much like a planning and starting to take action kind of phase of business. Things like in my work, I think about those coaches who are starting to build their websites, who are starting to develop their offers. They're in that kind of phase where they're not fully out there doing it, but they're making those plans. They are starting to plant those seeds in their business. And then the summer phase for business is, it's that full kind of launch. If you think about a very typical launch in the online business space, that is very summer energy. It's very outward, it's very visible, it's very high energy. It's very much like being out there, showing up really fully, and it can be quite an intense energy. So that for me is like launching something, or it might be, really promoting your coaching package, just something that is very outward and very high energy. And interestingly as well, just as much as we need the winter time of year in our businesses, the winter energy, we also need the summer. And when I reflect on this actually a little bit, do I ever actually get into the summer phase of being really fully visible and really fully high energy? I think I do at certain times, but that was an interesting reflection for me when I was planning this episode of the show, was like, actually, I don't think I have a problem with winter, but I might not always actually go into the summer. And it just depends on your personality type. Some people might be all go, go, go. And being in that summer energy in their business is not a problem, but actually they need the winter. Whereas I'm a little bit different and I'm a little bit the reverse. So again, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And then autumn, I think, is all about, it's that culmination energy. It's about perhaps reflecting on, what's worked and what hasn't, letting go of things that aren't working for you in your business. Like if you've tried a new marketing kind of strategy out and it's not working, that might be the time when you let it go. It's starting to reflect on things. And it's also kind of enjoying the fruits of your labour. Like I feel like that's a big thing of harvest. It's reminding you to enjoy your results and enjoy your success and enjoy what comes next. So that's really that kind of autumn energy. And then winter is very much about taking stock. It's about having rest and time off. And it's about that introspection and perhaps even starting to make some plans. Like I think spring is very much the implementation of the plans. And I think winter is the time, like the energy that is more about starting to make the plans and starting to kind of vision and setting that vision. Actually, I think that's a really beautiful part of that winter energy, is that visioning for what comes next. So if you can think about those energetics in terms of seasons and think about where your business might be right now. Now, what I've found in my business is that often different projects are in different bits of that energy. But what I find is that when I try and bring things into alignment, that things feel a bit more sustainable and less stressful. So like if I've got one project over here which is in summer, and then I've got another thing going on over here which is in like spring, it just gets all a bit overwhelming. Whereas if I kind of bring things into alignment and into the same kind of season, that really helps. What this isn't about is not doing anything in your business in winter. So this isn't about stopping everything. It's about what your energetic output is. So for example, this show, I've got this to the point where this feels like I can, maintain creating this show, and with the energy output is just stable and sustainable. When I was first developing the show and I was in the spring phase of that and I was developing the idea, that was very much in the spring. When I launched it, that was very much the summer kind of phase of it. And that now I feel like I'm in a very kind of constant, almost autumn phase, which again, and I'm reflecting on this literally as I'm saying it. Interestingly, given that I really love the autumn season, I wonder if that's like a really nice, happy place for me to be, is in this culmination but kind of ongoing state. Whereas other things I have going on, and because that doesn't require like really high levels of energy for me, it doesn't, being visible via this show does not require summer levels of energy from me. It's something that I can still put out there when other parts of my business might be in its winter phase. So I think it's really thinking creatively about this. Like I say, taking what works and what doesn't, but there's lessons there, and I think the lessons there are, it's not sustainable to be in your summer phase all of the time. And also I think it's very difficult to develop and grow a well-rounded business if you are just in one or two seasons. We kind of need all those pieces to create a well-rounded, sustainable business that isn't going to burn you out and it's going to get results. But look at where you feel you are missing a season, or like I said, I reflected that perhaps I'm not in summer very much, and maybe that's just a personal preference and that's okay. Or maybe there's a lesson there for me to take away from this, is that perhaps I do need to do some more high energy stuff. And again, that doesn't have to look like a launch. It can look like something completely different. You'll have a sense about what that might look like in your business. For me, I think it might be doing something like a community challenge, or it might be running some kind of like live immersion or a live round of a program or something. So there's various different versions of what this can look like. And like I say, if this doesn't resonate, you don't have to worry about it. But if this does, and if it feels good to you, then it's a really interesting model that you can run with and that you can use in your business and in your life as well. Like these energies all kind of come into our lives as well, that you can use and, use that to benefit your life and your business and help things be more sustainable, have more flow, have more productivity, all of those good things that come out of the end of it as well. So what other ways can your business benefit from seasonality? So I want to get into the more practical side of it. I've talked about the energetics, but I always want to bring in some really practical down to earth strategy as well. So obviously the seasons impact people in different ways, and I think there's various ways that we can bring that into our business and the way that we show up and the things that we do. So the first one is really just to start off by thinking about your ideal client. Think about the people who you love to work with, or think about the people who are experiencing the problem that you solve or the aspiration that you help them achieve. And think about, and also just about your niche in general, your industry in general. Is there any seasonal impact around the problems that people are experiencing, the aspirations that they might have, the things that they might be worried about, the things that they might need to do? Like, just think about the impact of the seasons. So a really obvious example, if you're a health coach, is that people might, in January, kind of stress about the fact that they might have eaten more over the Christmas. Rightly or wrongly, people might stress about the fact that they've eaten more over the Christmas, and in January, they want to do something about that. That's a very standard example, but that's going to shift and change throughout the year. So really get into the heads of your ideal clients, like how is the season impacting them that you're in? And then kind of on the back of that, I think when it comes to your content and marketing, how can you really consider the season that you're in and bring seasonality into the content that you are creating? If you're looking at platforms like Pinterest, Pinterest is a really seasonal platform. So you want to be thinking about the seasons if you're creating content for Pinterest, because what people search for is going to change over the different seasons that we have. So you really want to be considering that, particularly, like I say, if you're using Pinterest. But just in general, I think it just makes your content really relevant. You want to find a balance, because certainly if you're creating content in the way that I talk about and that I suggest for a lot of people, we want stuff to be sustainable. So we want it to be relevant over a long period of time. But that doesn't mean that you can't dip into some seasonal stuff that people can kind of come back to year on year. One of my biggest ever bits of content that I created was a post on hygge. So there was a massive trend for hygge, the Danish word for well-being and coziness, which, God, that is just so my thing, being a massive autumn fan. And I created a blog post, and that went, I would say, kind of went semi-viral. Like, it's probably had over 1 million views now. A lot of it driven through Pinterest and Google. I wrote that when I was a health coach, and it brought loads of people into my world, massively grew my email list. And that was a very highly seasonal piece of content. What happens with that piece of content, even now, although it's obviously dropped off, it's not a massive trend anymore, but the views kind of go up every September and kind of stay high and then kind of like come down in January. So it works really, really well in that way. So think about the seasons when it comes to your content. Think about how you can help people where they might be and what their challenges might be depending on what the season is and what they might be thinking about. And if you use that in your content, that can be really powerful as well. And also just think about your marketing. So if you want to run a challenge to promote a program that you might have, you might really want to think about the challenge leaning into something seasonal, or a seasonal, like I was going to say a seasonal challenge that someone might have, but obviously it is a challenge, but a seasonal, issue people might have, or worry or problem that you can help them with in that challenge. So you might want to think about that from that point of view as well. And then by extension of that, you might want to think about your offers that you put out. So I have an offer in my business, which I'm just about to start promoting. You can actually go and check that out at the link in the description box. But I've got a program called Get It Done, and I only really released this, generally speaking, in September, because it's a 3-month program and I work with people around achieving a specific goal before the end of the year, usually so that they can launch something in January or have something ready for the next year. It's a fantastic offer as well. We have like 3 one-to-one sessions, and you also get some time from me. So it's 10 hours of either my time or my VA's time, but it means that, let's say that you want to create a course, it means that I can do some of that work for you. I can set the course up, I can, all of that kind of stuff, do, Canva templates for you, whatever. I've had people use it for doing a rebrand, because I've got design skills as well. I've had people use Get It Done to basically launch a program of retreats and events. I've had people use Get It Done to start using Facebook ads and to get really organised with their email list and their YouTube channel. So there's some really great things that you can use it for. So I'll put the link in the description if you're interested in Get It Done. But this is just an example of, can you create an offer, or does it make sense for you to create an offer that is seasonal, that kind of links into something about the time of year? And like I say, mine's really about utilising that fresh energy and really getting something done, because I think part of this September, October, November energy, we've got this chunk of time before we kind of get into Christmas and things shift a little bit, but we've got this chunk of time to get focused. Like what I'm feeling right now, and I'll talk a bit more about this in a sec, I'm just feeling this big, right, let's get some shit done, let's get focused, let's, with a side of let's enjoy the cosy, autumn vibes, but let's kind of get focused and let's progress things and let's get some stuff done. And that's what Get It Done is all about. So have a think about whether or not it makes sense to have any seasonal offers at this time or at any other kind of time in the year that really taps into something that people might be experiencing, a problem, a worry, a concern, an aspiration that they might have at a certain time of year as well. So I hope that that's been helpful and interesting. Like I say, I find it's a really fascinating topic, and I think when we apply this to our businesses, it can bring us a lot of benefits as well. Like I said, do check out Kate Northrup. She talks a lot more about this in her work, about these different energetic seasons for our business. But I think it's a really fun thing to explore and really think about, like, where is your business right now? Is a certain part of your business in one season, a certain part in the other? How can you bring those things into alignment? You know, what does it take for you to be sustainably outputting energy when you need to be in a winter season? It's all going to kind of mesh together. And you can even like take this and look at your life, you know, like what is going on in your life right now? What season is your life in, depending on what it is that you've got going on? I think that can be a really interesting other aspect of it to dive into as well. So I hope that you found that super helpful. Let me know in the comments. Let me know on Instagram. Pop me a DM. I'm at Wholeheartedly Laura. I've pretty much not been on Threads. I think I mentioned it loads in the last few episodes of the show that I did. Was like, you know, message me on Threads, and I've just literally not even opened the goddamn app over the summer. So hey ho. So if you've messaged me on Threads, I might be catching up with them today. Now that I've just said it. But anyway, I wanted to just finish this episode of the show with a bit of a general catch up from me about, I just thought it'd be nice to check in. I love hearing about what stuff other people have got going on in their life. So hopefully you guys enjoy hearing about a bit about my life as well. So it's been a really lovely summer. Obviously I talk about this kind of stuff in my behind the scenes posts every quarter as well. But yeah, it just feels like, you know, it's been a lovely summer. I really feel like I've got a good balance. I think I've talked about this before, but I know some business owners like to take the full 6 weeks off. That's never been a desire of mine, to be honest. It just doesn't feel, it's never felt quite right to do that. And I think it would just cause more anxiety to try and do that. And also, it's not necessarily what I want. Like, my business isn't something I feel I need to escape from or stop. I need to balance it. That's really what I need to do, and I feel like that's something that I achieved quite well over the summer. So I've been working primarily like 2.5 days in the summer, often with Finley at home. Freya's been going to nursery. I can't work, you know, she's 3. I can't work and have her at home with me, unfortunately. So she goes off to nursery, has like an absolute blast at nursery, and then Finley's been at home, and then one day Freya goes into nursery, or has been going into nursery, and Finley and I have been having like a little adventure. We've been going to the beach, which he absolutely loves. He's been getting waffles afterwards. I've been having a sea swim. He's been having a splash. And that's been a nice little kind of routine that we've had for the weeks when it's just been kind of us doing our thing. And then we had a family holiday to Brighton, which was amazing. I've got a family in Brighton. I've been going to Brighton since I was a child. And that was lovely as well. That was just really great. It was really like, it was so summery. It was just like, this is like, I feel like I've had my summer, because the weather in the UK has been abysmal, to be fair, for the summer. But to be fair, like, I don't know if I'd want the alternative, which was the hideous heat waves. But we had a really nice week, and it just felt like, yes, I've had a summer. I've really experienced that summer energy, and now I am so ready for September. And I've noticed, you know, I really enjoy Chris Corsini's readings, so I will put a link to him. I really enjoy his intuitive readings. He does like full moon workshops, new moon workshops, readings for like your sign and stuff like that. And I watched his full moon reading because it was a full moon last night, and you know, he was talking about this fresh start energy, and I feel like there is this kind of, you know, incoming of fresh start energy. I think there's a lot of, if you're into astrology and stuff like that, then there's a lot of planets in retrograde, and I think as soon as a lot of them start to go forward again, I think most of them start to change kind of in September at some point. I feel like there's going to be just this real rush of energy coming back, but I feel like a lot of people are kind of in this place of feeling a little bit like treading water. But I'm just really ready for the fresh start, and I'm embracing that, whatever the planets are doing, but I'm really ready for that. And in like my personal life, so the kids are going back to school. Well, Finley's going back to school next week. Freya, I'm changing her hours at nursery, so she used to go in kind of like a full day at nursery is 7:30 till 6. She wasn't in that long. She'd go in at 7:30. I'd pick her up at like 4:30, and she was in 3 days a week, and I would have a Friday off with her, and that was lovely, and I really enjoyed that. And I really hummed and hawed about changing that because I really enjoyed that pattern. However, I've decided, because she's kind of going to be starting school next year, it just feels like a better fit, and I feel like I'm going to feel more calm if we have her in 9 till 3, 4 days a week with my mum, 1 day a week, so 5 days a week of some form of childcare. I feel like that's actually going to allow us to live a much more slow, kind of chilled life, because when you try to get 2 kids out of the house at 7:30 on a morning and you're all getting up and it's all rushing around, it's actually quite stressful. And I feel like actually having that later start is going to feel much, much better. And I feel like having a Friday with some childcare means that I can run errands and do stuff that is going to just set us up to all have a better weekend together as a family. So some shifts and changes happening, which feel really good, and a new routine, which feels really exciting. And also just this autumn energy, which I absolutely adore. It's just my favourite time of year. And yeah, I'm really excited to just lean into that and just to get into it. So I can't wait for that. I'm also going to join the gym, which is like a big thing. I'm a little bit kind of nervous about it. I've only ever gone to a ladies only gym, and this is a pure gym, which is just like a chain gym for anyone who's not in the UK. And I'm a little bit anxious about it, but I feel like it's a good next step for me. I've really got into my strength training. I've been doing that at home, but I've just hit like a plateau with my weights. I haven't got big enough weights to really progress. So it's time to join the gym and figure out how I'm going to fit that in around things as well. But I think I've got a plan, and it involves early mornings, but we'll see how I get on with it. So overall, I'm just feeling really excited for the shifts that are coming, the shift in energy, like really getting stuck in for the rest of the year, but not in like a I'm going to burn myself out way. I mean, like I say, I rarely get into that summer energy, in all honesty. And in fact, I probably need to invite a little bit more of that in. But I'm just really excited for what's coming and for this season. Like, it is just, yeah, it's going to be a really good one, I think. And the new routine. And, you know, and I share this, and I'm always thinking about, like, how can I make my life better, more enjoyable, more peaceful, more ease, more in alignment with the way that I like to feel? And obviously, how is that going to benefit and work for my family as well? And like, what do they need? And balancing all of these different things out. So this is always what I'm thinking about. And like I say, this change with childcare is quite a big change in terms of our routine as a family, but it feels like a really positive one. It means that kids don't get kicked out of bed really early. They can have a lie in. It means that I might have some more quiet time in the morning, and it just feels like a really good positive shift. And to help me feel, you know, good in my life and in my energy and where I'm at, because, you know, when mum is happy, everybody else is happy. So I often live by that. But like I say, it's all good. But this is why I'm sharing it, really, because I think it's this kind of process of, you know, when you want to set up your lifestyle the way that you want to set it up in order to enjoy a certain kind of feeling or a certain kind of day-to-day life or whatever it is, like, it's these little tweaks that do kind of come in and make a difference. And I'm always very consciously, I don't want to live my life by default. Like, I wouldn't be doing this business if I was living my life by default. So I'm always thinking about, like, is this still working? Is this not working? What needs to change? Like, these are always the questions I ask myself, like, what's working, what's not, what needs to change? And this was what came out of that, in terms of, like, I really want to focus on my health and well-being. I've done so well this year. I feel really strong. I want to continue that, and it's something that's important to me. And now that my kids are a bit older, I've got the capacity for that. And also, you know, how can I maintain like a calm, happy home and a slow pace of life? Because I don't want to have a life where I'm rushing from one thing to another. I just can't do that. It's just not in my nature. So having lifestyle set up for that really makes a big difference to like my day-to-day happiness and contentment and all of that stuff, which I think is really important, because if we're not doing that, what are we here for? You know, like, that's the thing. So anyway, that's my ramblings. Very excited for September. I've got some great content, great stuff coming up on the show for you over the next few weeks. I've been planning stuff out. I've got an exciting thing that I'm kind of letting it download into my head a little bit around something that I want to do for free. It's kind of like, I think it's going to be not really a challenge, but more like a free kind of immersion thing. I haven't quite decided what it is, but that's kind of downloading for me at the moment, that will, I'm sure, manifest itself soon. So that's really exciting. Yeah, I've just got some cool things coming up. So watch this space, guys. Anyway, as always, I really hope you've enjoyed this. Like I say, pop me a message if this has been useful. I absolutely love it when you guys pop me an email or pop me a DM on Instagram or whatever. I love it so much. Or leave me a comment. You know, I absolutely love it when you give me feedback that this has been useful and that I'm not just talking a load of shit randomly and no one's actually listening or watching. But I know that you guys are. I see the stats. I see how many people are listening and watching. So thank you. But yeah, I wish you all a really wonderful autumn season, spring season if you are in the southern hemisphere. But I wish you a beautiful season. But obviously I will see you next week anyway. So we'll catch up then. But take care, guys. I will see you next time. Bye.